I've never worked for myself before. I never ran my own business. And so there are lots of fears that come up. And so I feel like the most challenging part is to not stay stuck with them and to learn to disassociate yourself from these fears and just to understand that these fears, they're not you, and just to not to like integrate them as part of your identity.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Heart Inspired, the show dedicated to highlighting individuals in their pursuit of authentic leadership. We peel back the layers to uncover the roadblocks we all face, explore the actions we can take, and how to persevere towards the best version of ourselves. It is my hope that you'll be inspired by their story and gain some insights to help you in your own journey. Claudia Warius started her career in tech, chasing what she thought was the ideal career. Finally reaching burnout, feeling empty, exhausted, and lost on who she was and what she really wanted to do with her career and life, Claudia decided to switch to becoming an entrepreneur. Claudia has lived and worked in 6 different countries and now currently living in Barcelona, where it all started. On today's episode, Claudia will share some of her successes and failures she faced throughout all the places she has lived. We will explore the diversity within leadership and how it differs from country to country. Please welcome my guest, Claudia Warius. Welcome, Claudia.
Hi.
How are you? Hi, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. You know, Zoom is just an amazing thing here, being able to talk to people from all over the world. So here we are, audience. I'm in the United States and Claudia is in beautiful Barcelona.
Yes.
Or as they say with the TH, right? Barcelona.
Yes, that's right, Michelle.
Yeah, see?
Barcelona.
There we go. So if we start switching audience into Portuguese, you'll know why. But I think that's the only thing I know. Anyway, so it's so nice to have you on the show here today. We're talking about diversity through a different lens. And the fact that what's really interesting to me is that while you are in Barcelona, and that's your original hometown, correct?
Yes, no, actually, I was born in Austria and grew up in Austria, but my family is Polish. So I'm, a bit of a mix there.
Oh, okay.
Staying for 6 years now.
What was interesting is that you have lived and worked in 6 countries. Is that correct?
Yes, exactly. So I moved to 6 different countries over the course of 12 years, around 12 years. Yeah.
Wow. All right. Well, let's get started. Tell us about, you were in tech, right? That was your first career in corporate. Is that correct?
Yes, exactly. So I've been around 7.5 years in corporate in general, between tech, hospitality, automotive industry. So lots of different industries, lots of different careers and jobs as well during the time. Yes.
And when you were in those roles, you thought that this was going to be, the road to success, the ultimate, career path for you. And so tell us a little bit about what that was like.
What happened is basically in my early 20s, when we all go through this process of like, we finish high school and then we enter university, and it's always this question about like, okay, what do we want to do in our lives, right? Like, what we want to work, how does our career look like? And so coming from an immigrant family, my family, they grew up in communistic Poland back then, and they moved to Austria for better opportunities for me and my brother. And so I took on this desire to just like achieve something, also for them, right? Because they gave up a lot, they sacrificed a lot. And so for me, that definition was that, okay, I want to be a director as fast as possible in a big tech company. That was my goal in my early 20s.
Big goals.
Yeah, big goals, exactly. And so for me, during that time, I took this on as like, okay, that's my goal and I'm going to work towards it. I moved to Dubai, to London, to Barcelona, got into management, also senior management. And so every step was aligned towards the goal. However, what I realized, I never really stopped and ask myself, where's this goal really coming from? So I took it on because I saw it as something that this is what success looks like, right? I saw it as something, okay, if you're a manager in a big company, this is what it means to be really successful, because we see it like, or at least how I grew up or what I saw around me is like, this is what success looks like. And that's what I was chasing for a very long time.
So you lived in, let's go over the list, Dubai.
Yes, exactly. So I lived in Dubai, in Australia, Sydney, in Germany, in Chile, in London, and UK, and now in Spain. Yes, Barcelona.
Wow.
Yes.
And in all those countries, were you always moving up towards director, or was you were a director and you moved to each one of those countries? Which came first?
All of these experiences, they led up towards like my career essentially, right?
Okay.
However, a couple of those countries like Australia, I moved after my high school because I really wanted to improve my English, because I knew I wanted to work in an international environment. And I thought, okay, this is the path to more opportunities, being very fluent in English. And so that's when I moved to Australia, for example. Chile was part of my exchange during my university, where I focused on economics and business management.
Okay.
And then, exactly. And during my career, that's when like Dubai, London, and Germany and Barcelona particularly came into place, where I just had different jobs in different companies, essentially, for each of these countries.
Wow. And so when you were in there, correct me if I'm wrong, but I would assume that Dubai may have been the one area where you really faced some challenges or diversity as you continue to grow in your career.
You know, honoring the topic of diversity through a different lens, I definitely say that each of these experiences, they taught me something about diversity in general. I will say that Dubai was definitely the one that marked me the most in terms of my professional career. And before that, I'd say even my experience when I was living in Chile, because we're living in fairly humble environments, you know, it's a developing country. So that for sure in my early 20s, that marked me a lot in terms of like seeing things from a different perspective, which in my opinion, diversity is as well. Yeah. And then when it comes to work related, I would really say Dubai really marked me, because it's a very international melting pot from, you know, there are people literally from all sides of the world. Yeah. And there is also this interesting dynamic between, you know, wealth and material things and the opposite of that, and people just trying to like manage and navigate through this. So yeah, I'd say Dubai marked me the most, and then London and Barcelona even, you know, in terms of diversity, they really taught me beautiful lessons as well.
So now you've been working, you've gotten your director role, right? And what country was that in?
I was in management, in people management. Exactly, yeah, for 4 years. Okay. That was still Barcelona. So basically what has happened, I was in London for 1 year, and then my partner actually, he got an opportunity in Barcelona in Spain. And so we moved, and it was interesting because during that time, like all like people around us, you know, even my work colleagues, friends, family were like, oh, how can you move to Spain? Like there are no jobs in Spain. There is nothing in Spain, right? There's this perception or this judgments that we have of the marketplace or of the cultures of the country in itself, right? We went anyways because our priority at that time was actually to be close to the sea and have sun, which was not,
not a bad priority. It may not pay the bills, but it's not a bad priority.
Sometimes you need to see what really does you well, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Do what you love.
Exactly. And that turned out to be an incredible opportunity, because then I started a job in sales at a big tech company, American tech company, actually, that they just opened up their hub office in Barcelona. So when I joined, we were 40 people. 6 years later, I was 6 years with them. We were over 500. So I was part of that. Yes, I was part of the growth of that office and just like learning loads. And that in itself provided me lots of opportunities. After like 2 years, I was team leader. Then after that, I was like people manager, and I took on different roles as a manager. And then 2 years ago, in the midst of the pandemic, like what we all went through, at some point we asked ourselves, this was then for me the moment when I asked myself, okay, where's this goal coming from and what do I actually really want to do, right? Because I had all of these, I had a good salary, I had like the manager title, I was leading teams, my parents were super proud. For them, it was like, oh my gosh, you get stock options, that's incredible, right? Like, oh my gosh, you know, like it was perceived as a very, very good job on the outside. However, I was so exhausted and I was so tired, and I felt like it was like something was crushing my soul. Like I couldn't be myself somehow. And that's when I started to do a lot of internal deep work with a coach, with a therapist, and then over the course decided to actually want to also make an impact in people's lives. So did the coaching certification, and actually this year in January, I quit my job, my corporate job, to fully focus on my career change and mindset coaching business.
Well, congratulations. You're almost touching on a year now. So that's
Yeah.
really exciting. And
Good.
wearing the entrepreneur hat,
Yes.
as I know, it's fun, it's exciting, but it's also can be scary, lonely, challenging. You're wearing every single hat there is,
Yes.
for sure. What's the most exciting thing for you being an entrepreneur in Barcelona? And do you see challenges with biases?
Ooh, okay. Very good question. Honestly, I believe it's more around staying consistent and working with those internal fears that come up. I feel it's this, like, because honestly, I'm so passionate about the work that I do and coaching people and helping them navigate through their careers, that the work in itself, I don't feel like it's hard, like times are flying by and I could spend hours talking about it. What is hard is to not let myself stay stuck in fears. Like, of course it's scary. Like, I don't know what's going to happen 1 year from now, like, especially with what's happening in the world.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of things are very, very scary, and I'm uncomfortable every day building up this business because I've never worked for myself before. I never ran my own business. And so there are lots of fears that come up. And so I feel like the most challenging part is to not stay stuck with them and to learn to disassociate yourself from these fears, and just to understand that these fears, they're not you, right? They're part of you, and they just like come and they just, they leave, and just to not to like integrate them as part of your identity.
Yeah, that's really great. And fear can definitely keep you right frozen in your steps if you let it. So acknowledging it, that it's there, but then keep moving forward. Do you focus on abundance as opposed to scarcity?
Yes. So that was a big learning, actually, Michelle, this journey. Like, what I realized also through all my travels, and essentially leaving my home 6 times and starting completely from scratch, completely elsewhere, even with different language, when I wasn't fluent in that language, it taught me, that experience taught me that there is always a place for me if I want their place to be for me. Doesn't matter where I am. And that for me in itself helped me a lot to reflect on what abundance actually really means. Like, for many years, I thought that abundance means like, the title that I have and the money that I have in my account, right? Whereas now, like, I feel like all the experiences I had in all these different countries, they led me now to believe that abundance is really more of a feeling than something like that you purchase or that you chase externally. And I've seen that in Chile, working very humbling or living in very humbling environments and neighborhoods, in Dubai, where there's like tons of wealth and unlimited like goals, and just like not even the sky's the limit in Dubai, right? To Germany, to London, it all comes down to like, you can have all the abundance in terms of like, let's say, money or title, power, status. However, if you don't feel abundant, then all of these things don't matter. And so I definitely focus on abundance. For me, the way that looks like is, the sense of abundance is to feel safe in my body, like feel safe with my strengths and to be my authentic self, essentially, every day, and make an impact. So that for me is abundance. And coming from this place of abundance, once I made that switch in my business, it's incredible what opportunities actually open up, right? Coming from that place, rather than coming from a place, oh my gosh, like I need to do this because otherwise I won't have that, etc. Like it creates anxiety and all these things. They just don't serve you. And people also notice that, right? In your energy and how you project.
100%. Yeah. Fear to me, it's an emotion that people can sense, even if it's not on your face.
Yes.
It's the actions that you take or the actions you don't take. You mentioned 2 different countries here that are so opposite in ways. Is there one that you associated or felt more comfortable in aside from Barcelona?
Oh, really?
So like Chile, you mentioned that it's a lot of humble beginnings and definitely not at a wealthier, I'm sure there are areas, but where you were, and then Dubai being as wealthy as it is.
Yes.
Was there a comfort level in one versus the other?
which is very interesting because when I think back of my experience in Chile living there and like studying and learning Spanish, the things that come up for me is like pure happiness and ease. And that was also at the same time where, you know, like all the people that I surrounded myself, my colleagues, my friends or the families that I started to engage with, they shared like one room for 6 people, you know, that was their house. Yet, you know, they were so welcoming. They were so like, okay, we have this, like, take it, you know, like, doesn't matter. They're just so willing to give, but from pure heart. So when I think back of this experience, this is what comes up for me. And when I think back of the experience that I had in Dubai, there is more of a sense of toughness somehow, and more of a sense of difficult experience and not related to wealth at all. So my experience in Dubai, you know, when I reflect back of it, it was a very tough experience. It taught me tons of lessons, even though it is an area where you just, you know, tax-free salary, right? Incredible, like paycheck, all these kind of things. That was just not the experience for me, right? And so this is super interesting. And to honor the topic of today, like diversity through a different lens, it's like, again, like all of us have different experiences and perceptions of different places, or just in general of the world, right? If someone like me would have exactly the same experience in Dubai, or exactly the same experience in Chile, they would perceive it in a different way.
Yeah.
And so this is what helped me a lot in my workplace. And I also believe why I grew quite fast into management at a fairly young age, because I'm always reflecting about this, like, okay, this is my worldview. I know that this person that I'm arguing here with has a different world, right? And that has nothing to say about me. It's just 2 different world maps, you know, coming together. And that's neither one of them is better or worse.
What did you see as far as how leadership, because I know you were in management, but leadership above, leadership at your same level, how different was it in the different places you worked? Or was it very similar? Because some of the things that you're talking about, you know, here in the United States, wealth and material things are important a lot. And I'm not going to speak for everybody, but that definitely is, you know, you get the good job or you become an entrepreneur. And the reason why you want to become an entrepreneur is so that you can make millions. I mean, that's a common theme, right? Yeah. And so what did you see as far as leadership where you were?
Universally, from the experiences that I had, I saw that oftentimes leaders, even though they're called leaders, might not be leaders. And sometimes there are leaders that don't have necessarily the title, if you see what I mean. I've seen exactly.
Natural leaders, natural born leaders. Yes.
Yeah. Individual contributors that are more of leaders than maybe people that are, you know, having those titles and leading these teams. What I've seen is that there are definitely cultural differences, especially in the way people communicate. Like in the experience that I had in Dubai, for example, it's very straightforward. It's very direct. That's from the experience that I had. Okay. And so that kind of communication style is, for example, not at all what I've seen in my experience in an American company in Spain, right? It was very different. It was very more accommodating, very more indirect, for example, right? Yeah. So I feel like the intention is, what I've seen is like the same, like people just want to make an impact, people want to move forward, and people just do the best that they can every day. Yeah. Right. And I've seen similar. It's just about how people go about it has varied a lot in the different countries that I've been in, for sure.
When you were in Dubai, was there a predominant gender in leadership, men versus women?
Yeah. So here's the thing, just a story comes up. When I told to my parents that I'm going to move to Dubai at a very young age, I think I was 23 or 24. And my family and my friends, everyone was like, "You're crazy. Like, I mean, as a woman, you go to the United Arab Emirates, like, what's wrong with you?" Kind of.
Lots of thoughts going on there, right?
Lots of thoughts, yeah. However, like, I have to say that in Dubai, at least where I was working at that time, it was event management at a very, very luxurious hotel. doing events for Pepsi, Apple, like a lot of different companies. And what I realized in our team, for example, it was very even. It was literally like 50-50 in terms of gender. Yes, exactly. In terms of like gender difference, especially in leadership as well, right? So it was very, very equal and very even, which was very incredible to see. Now, that doesn't mean that as a woman, you have to just step up more, right? It does, you still have to step up more. You have to speak up more. You have to be more assertive. You have to, still be more present in order to make sure that you're being heard, right?
What were some of the things you did to be heard more in a 50-50 environment where even if it's 50-50, men were dominating conversation in the room?
Yeah, in these kind of situations, it's about really staying true to yourself and what you stand for. And I feel like sometimes in the corporate environment, it's very easy to forget that, and to try to fit in and try to then be quiet. And then, you lose your confidence and you doubt yourself, and then all these things happen. And I think in that environment, I always centered myself, and I always was clear, like, okay, is what I'm saying actually for the better of the client and the business? Right. So often I feel like many leaders, they try to impose something coming out from an ego-based perspective, right? To prove to themselves something, or their idea is the best, or blah, 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 blah.
Right.
Instead of just like, okay, but let's think really about holistically, like that idea or that solution, is this really the best one for the client and the business and the team? And then put yourself before. And that's as well what I've learned throughout all my experiences abroad, to see from that perspective. And coming from that perspective and expressing this in this way as well, is like, I really believe like this idea is a win for this, this, and this, and this. So what makes us not think about that, right? So it's really then as well about how you communicate with this. And doesn't matter what from the cultural background. I really believe, and what I've seen as well, is that coming from the sense of like, okay, the thing that I have to say is for the benefit of everyone, and especially the clients, And so it's important that I voice it, because if I don't voice it, we're not going to talk about it, and that's a disservice. And that's a disservice to the client, right?
No, that's so good. I was doing a speaking engagement, and there was a woman who spoke up and said, how do you get your voice heard when you're in a predominantly male organization, industry? She was an engineer. And she has the degree. She's been there a number of years. And I said, you have to speak from your heart. You have to know what your worth is. And it's okay to pause and, kind of wait your turn to speak, so that you can really have a very thoughtful string of, thoughts all together. Because if we come from reactive, that's when they start to, people in the room may lose credibility or want to talk over you because they don't want to hear it, And 100%. So that's really great advice, to be able to kind of think, is it for the good? Is it a valued message that I prepare for, I'm preparing. So that's really great.
And honestly, Michelle, like I can really relate to this client's experience, because the last 2 years I was a data analytics manager in Spain, in Barcelona, for an American company. Ironically, we were 2 female leaders and 6 male leaders, right? And so there was a very big imbalance in terms of gender and leadership.
Well, it's good to see. Well, not good to see, but it seems to be everywhere.
Yes.
But we're making strides.
We're making strides, exactly. Especially in the data analytics industry. I feel like there's still a lot of work to be done.
Yes.
And I will say that during the time, I did the same things in the approach of communicating and coming from heart, exactly like you said. And if that's still not heard, it's very easy that you lose the confidence in yourself and your capabilities, especially if your manager is not supporting your ideas.
Yep.
What I would really recommend for people that find themselves in the situations, like just having external support in form of a coach, or like someone subjective that has experience in this, is so valuable, because I haven't had that during that time, and it went on and on and on. And I went to a point where I just really lost myself there for a second, and I doubted myself, and I didn't have confidence.
Yeah.
So I really encourage, because we need more female leaders in the workplace. And so, these challenges that we're having in that circumstances, we can navigate through them. And it is okay to ask for external help in form of a coach, for example.
Yeah.
Or something else. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's really smart. One of the things that I have, I'm focusing on is the fact that, C-suite leadership, they have those opportunities of coaches, mentors,
Yes.
whether
Right.
it's externally or internally, that financial cost there is available to them.
Yes.
Then frontline, they have to learn the job because they're the workers, right? And then there's that middle management area that kind of gets a little bit lost. They're either hoping that somebody from above or a level up will help and mentor and coach them. And they may have come from frontline, they're promoted, but not given all the right tools and the mentorship to be able to succeed in there. So it's so important to have that sounding board or an ally that can help you and kind of champion you as you keep growing within the organization. So
important, Michelle.
Very important.
Yeah. If we reflect back, like the switch from individual contributor to manager role, it's a big switch, right?
Absolutely.
Like you need, you need to have a huge emotional intelligence about yourself first.
Yes.
And you are in charge of all these people. And it's interesting because next week I'm speaking at a big event in London, and I'm talking exactly about this topic, that to inspire just more and more companies to provide funds and budget for first-time managers. That like the I would say the 1 to 4 years managers, these are the ones that really need support, but more in the way that they develop in their true authentic leadership.
Yeah.
Right. And that's what we need in the workplace, in terms of making sure that the company grows in the right direction. Yes, absolutely.
It's an expense if leaders are not mentored and coached correctly, because either they leave because they're frustrated, or they fail, and it can be hit the bottom line, for revenue lost or what have you. When you and I spoke, you talked about building the compassion muscle.
Yes.
Tell us more about what that's like.
I realized that through all my travels, or through all my living experiences abroad, and also now the travels that I'm doing right now as an entrepreneur, I just came to the conclusion that compassion is not something that we're just born with. It's the same with confidence. Like no one is just born straight away with like a sense of compassion and like confidence and resiliency. No, like it's all like muscles that can be developed, which is amazing news, which basically means that we can all develop compassion, we can all develop confidence, right? It's not something that one has and one doesn't. It's really not. And there's actually lots of research about the topic as well. And so for me, the compassion muscle is really something that grows over the years when really focusing on trying to be true to yourself and coming from a place of your heart, essentially, in anything that you do, whether as a partner, as a mom, as a manager, as an entrepreneur. It's really like, okay, feel yourself into yourself first, be compassionate with yourself, which is the most important.
Yeah.
If you don't have a good relationship with yourself, then everything else will be just way harder. And so developing that compassion, like I'd say on the left hand, the compassion muscle of like to yourself, that you're growing, you're an evolving being, you're not linear and static. And if you're now in a career that you feel stuck in, that doesn't mean that this career will last forever, until the rest. Like you are changing, you're evolving. You're not the same person you were 5 years ago. You will not be the same person 5 years. And that's the beauty of life. So be compassionate with yourself. And the other compassionate muscle is just like compassion with people around you, with others, right? Because what I really realized is like the most inspiring lessons or memories or the things that shape me the most is because of interaction with people. It doesn't matter where I was. It's like, people listening to us, they hopefully learn something from us, right? The books we read, they come from people, right? The talks we read, like everything is a co-creation from people. And so I really believe also that everyone has a story to share. And just like in your day-to-day, sometimes when I'm sitting on the beach and I observe people, I just think it's like everyone has their struggles. everyone is there, have something that they suffer from. At the same time, everyone has a voice and everyone is there for a reason. I really truly believe that. And so developing that compassion muscle to just also see and come from a place of like, okay, let's assume the best intention from everyone. And once you start doing that, you will just see how so much nicer the world somehow is.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Even, when leaders who have a lot on their shoulders, right, because they have a huge responsibility, especially depending on the level that they're at, when they lose sight of compassion or empathy for those who they lead, I feel it becomes even harder for them to lead, because I think it was James Clear who said it best, it might have been him, that said, good leaders have people who will follow them and not obey them.
Yes. I love this, Michelle. This is so good. Yeah.
So the only way you're going to have people follow you is if you have compassion and empathy for them.
Exactly. Yeah. Both of these are skills that can be developed.
Yeah. I don't know if you're a sports fan and if you follow US sports, but they just announced today in the Major League Baseball, All-American and National League Managers of the Year. And the two managers who won Manager of the Year have won three, and one won 3 times, the other one won 4 times, respectively, something like that in a year. It's because of the way they lead their players. They have so much compassion for them. That's who's voting for them. So one of them has won, I think, 4 times in 4 different decades. So it's really quite incredible. So could you imagine what the world or corporate would be like if, managers were recognized for their leadership and compassion in that way and voted by their peers, their teammates, or their, the direct reports? Wow. Would that be a game changer or what?
Michelle, you are onto something here. That's amazing. I truly believe that. That actually reminds me, Simon Sinek, there is a talk from him that he talks as well about that he studied and sat with the Navy SEALs, right? The toughest organization, right? And there's as well that they're determining the leaders of the troops, not by how popular they are, etc., but how much they are being trusted. Right. Even though they might not be the top performers, but they are most trusted. Right. And so in most difficult situations, it's like you need a leader that you can trust in, and then as a team, you actually move forward. And that goes along with that. I love this idea, Michelle.
Yeah. This is good stuff. We need to spread that good miracle seeds throughout the world. Yes, absolutely. Well, Claudia, what's next for you? I know you're a new entrepreneur. You just started in January of this year, correct? So you're closing in on your first year. What are some of your, if you'd like to share, 1 or 2 goals or initiatives that you are going to focus on for next year?
Good question. I'm actually in the middle of planning this for next year and dreaming about my goals. But honestly, just to continue to make an impact, I've had around 14 paying clients this year so far, and all of them taught me so much, and just also seeing how they progress gives me so much joy, just in knowing that I could make more impact, right, on people as well. Next year, I'm definitely doubling down on speaking engagements, just to spread the message more around the importance of reflecting how a successful career for people really looks like, not how it should look like, but how they want it to look like. And honestly, one of my things that I have on my big vision is to open an NGO to just help people that maybe don't have the financial means to actually engage with a coach to help them, navigate through their careers, to support them in that way. So that's something that I will be definitely looking into next year as well.
Well, that sounds amazing. We have some similar goals there. One of them, of course, is to, make an impact in somebody else. Yes. For me, it's about, especially for women, turning up the volume so their voice can be heard, because I feel like sometimes we kind of shy away, or we're afraid that, that's not going to come out right, or what have you. And it's so important, even if everybody makes mistakes, everybody has, blurted out things that may not be so great, but if you don't have that courage to do that, you stay stuck, right? And so sometimes your voice can't be heard. So I wish you all the best. Thank you so much for being on the show. This was an amazing conversation. Enjoy sun and Barcelona.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate what you're doing, and just keep showing up. And we need, like, the ideas that you have, the way you talk about it. Just continue to do what you do, and I hope our paths cross again in the future.
Absolutely. Well, I know now I have a friend who, if I'm coming to Barcelona, I know who I'm calling up.
100%, you better.
And if you come to the United States, you know who you're calling. So
100%, I will do so.
All right. Well, you have a great one, and thanks again for being on the show.
Thanks, Michelle.
Thank you again for listening. We'll be back soon with a brand new episode of the Heart Inspired podcast. Until then, I'm your host, Michelle Delgado. I welcome you to support the show by rating us on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your podcast. To learn more about HeartMetrics Consulting, book a strategy call by visiting the website at heartmetrics.com.